Hey everyone, welcome back to video 3 to the introduction series called Posture Cure. So, the first video we looked at the importance of why aligning the skeleton structure is important. The second video we looked at how can we find alignment in the feet to affect everything else on the top of the body. And today I want to continue with that theme in the feet, but not in a standing posture, but actually in walking, in movement. Okay, because I start with the feet because pretty much if you can stand, everything else above your feet, your ankles, your shins, your knees, your femur bones, your pelvis, your spine, your rib cage, your shoulders, your neck, your head, are all going to be affected by what's going on in the feet. So not just in standing, but in walking. Okay? So let's do a couple of exercises to practice detecting how you walk. It's very similar to how you stand, but I just want you to feel it in your body, what it does to you when you walk a certain way and you have a certain pressure on your feet. Okay? So let's do the first one where, remember we talked about sometimes we walk a little bit duck-like. Okay? So just try that out. And you might feel it in right in the low back, there's a sacrum, and it kind of gets more squeezed. So if you were to have your feet parallel, like we were talking about in the second video, and then I start to put my feet a little bit more like this, you might start to feel a little bit more tension in the back. So of course, when you walk, that tension is going to be there, especially if you walk with your toes more outward. Okay? So try it out. Just walk in a circle in a duck, kind of like your toes pointing out. And then the other thing that's also interesting to notice is if you tend to lean more or right or left. So walking more right or left, and just really feel how that feels if you're really heavy weighted on one side. Notice your hip. Okay? And where it becomes interesting is if you start to walk on in the front. So if you remember how I talked about leaning more forward. So if you tend to kind of lean more forward, most likely you're going to walk like that too. So just take a moment to walk more like on the toes. Walk more on your toes. And just notice how that feels. Okay? The other thing that people tend to do is they tend to just kind of go flat foot. So just walk and almost like stamp your feet flat. Just flat, 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 flat. And you will notice probably as it reverberates up, there's sort of like a reverberation up the spine. So it's almost like there's not enough give in your spine. And we'll look at that a little bit more when we find the way to walk where there creates more mobility on the top. The last thing that sometimes people tend to do is heel. Okay, so walking more on the heel, and often sometimes you walk more like this. Okay, so your hips are forward, there's tension in the back, and you're on your heels. So just walk with your heels. Walk with your heels. Okay, heels first. All right, so now you kind of can feel what those patterns in your body, in your feet, do to the rest of your body. So now let's practice walking so that there's more mobility in your ankle, in your shin, in your knee, in your hip joint. And it's really simple, and I'm sure you've heard it before, but I work with thousands of people, and many of us have not really mastered this. We've maybe heard the concept, but we don't actually practice it and refine it and master it. And so the simple thing is roll your foot on the floor. You've heard heel toe. So it's like you go from heel to toe. And basically what I call it, instead of walking, you're rolling. So I just want you to feel that the difference between rolling your foot on the floor from heel to toe, heel to toe. And you're going to exaggerate the lift of the knee if you can, just so you can really understand that this is going like this. Okay, the knee is lifting and there's like the hip socket is rounding like that. Okay, so this is kind of like a rolling action motion. Okay, And if you're not sure, go back to the same pattern, a certain pattern where you're like, okay, more forward. And you'll see when I go more forward, look at my legs. There's not much, there's a lot of tension that has to be held on the top of the legs because there's too much weight in the front. All the muscles have to tighten to hold this in place. And there's not much not much movement on the top, right? Or if I'm more on my heels, okay, my back has to kind of hold itself up. So it creates tension when we move out of alignment, like I keep on talking about. Okay? So the rolling action creates healthy joints. You know, that's the thing. It's like we're always walking everywhere we go. And so we may as well do it so that it's really optimal for our joints to stay mobile. And then on a very kind of fundamental level where most of us, we don't want to have chronic pain every day. And sometimes we don't realize it's the simple things that we do. It's not like these big, okay, I was walking too much. Most people think, wow, I walked 3 hours today and now my back hurts. And the reason why my back hurts is because I was walking too much. Most likely, that could be the case. But most likely it's not what you did, but how you do it. Okay? So this rolling action on the foot, what I suggest you do is just try it out. It might feel weird, and even when you exaggerate, it's going to feel a little bit weird, especially if you're not used to it. Your body's going to and your muscles are going to try to get used to it, because especially when you use the body in a different way, what happens is that there's tension that gets released, but there's also tension that sometimes is there because all of a sudden there's muscles that are waking up. All of a sudden when you're using your whole foot, maybe there's another part of your body that hasn't been used because there was so much of this going on or something like that, that now something is waking up. So just understand that those muscles that are sort of been kind of sleeping this whole time are now waking up. Okay, so really start to notice how rolling, it almost feels, like you're gliding across the floor. Okay? And essentially, as we continue this journey up the body, again, it's not just in one place. We want to start to understand that you have your feet, you have your ankle bones, you have your shins, your femur bones, your pelvis, your spine, your rib cage, your shoulders, your neck, your head, and pretty much all of those areas in the body want to come into a natural alignment. But what I would suggest for now is to practice this heel toe, and just really see how it becomes more easeful, and perhaps maybe it creates a little bit more mobility in your joints and less tension around the legs. Okay? So that's the experience of today, is really understanding, how to walk. Everyone can walk. Again, it's not what you do, but how you do it. And so just practice these just very basic things. And if you want to know more about all of the whole rest of the body, there's links down below. Same thing, we're going to continue up the body. And if you tend to be somebody who, let's say, wants more advanced postures, we're going to look at all of the same kind of alignment stuff in different postures, classical postures in yoga. And we're also going to look at how do we release tension. So now that we've kind of got the whole alignment thing going on, how do we release tension in the body? So we can do that through posture, but we also can do it through different techniques, using the rollers, using blocks if you have at home. So, and also using restorative yoga postures. So there's so many different ways that you can do right now at home. Maybe you don't have all of this stuff, so we're going to kind of give you options, but if you kind of want to advance in your posture, you want to kind of know a little bit more about the classical postures in yoga and how to move in a way that it prevents injury, then you can click down below. I also have more videos for very kind of essential fundamental things. So there's sort of like that choice of going a little bit more, let's say moderate to advanced in those classical yoga postures that maybe you've been practicing for years, but there's like a slight, there might be a slight alignment adjustment that makes a whole difference and creates less tension in your body. And at the same time, there's also very fundamental things, like if you're not into doing all of those postures, like sitting and lying down, that we also have to master. Okay? And so, if you have any questions about this, let me know. Leave me comments. Let me know how the whole like posture in standing was going for you. And then also let me know about the heel toe and just see how it goes. And if this is all you learn from me, I'm very happy, because that already, I know it's already going to change your life, especially if you implement it, especially if you get really curious about your practice. So that's really what you want to do. You want to be able to practice in a way where it's natural. It's something you do every day. And so that's why I'm giving you the everyday type things: standing, walking. Because if I go too far into like very advanced postures or even common yoga postures, they're not really going to do much, because all of a sudden the tension is going to come back because you've been sort of doing this the whole time, and you wonder why that hip is hurting, and you want to try to do these stretching things, and it doesn't really help you because you're always kind of still moving the alignment out of place. Okay, so click below for more courses with me. And again, if you have any specific questions for yoga, then let me know, and let me know how your practice goes. Okay, so thank you very much for your practice today. My name is Jamie Hernandez, and I'll see you next time.